Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Azure Administrator Study Series. This is lab number 9C. So for lab number 9C, we're going to implement Azure Kubernetes Service. As always, make sure you click on the link below this video and download the lab files. So once you download the lab files, then you can proceed to module 9C. So with module 9C, let's see what we're going to accomplish. So we have 4 tasks in this specific lab. For task 1, we're going to register the Microsoft.Kubernetes and Microsoft.Kubernetes configuration resource provider. For task 2, we will deploy an Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. For task 3, we will deploy pods into the Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. And for the last one, we're going to scale the containerized workload in Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. I hope you're excited as I am, so let's get to it. Okay, let's begin our task number 1. So task 1, we're going to register Microsoft Kubernetes and Microsoft Kubernetes configuration resource provider. So we begin by going to the portal.azure.com, and then you click on the Cloud Shell icon right here. Once the Cloud Shell icon open up, then select the option of PowerShell. If this is the first time you are setting your Cloud Shell up, you just simply have to create storage. Once the storage is mounted, drop this one down and select PowerShell and confirm your selection. Okay, so on the PowerShell, we're going to run a few commands to register the Microsoft Kubernetes services and also the Kubernetes configuration. So to do this, let's go back to the lab manual, and then under task 1, step 4, copy the code here. So essentially what this code will do is it will register the Microsoft Kubernetes, and also it will register the Microsoft Kubernetes configuration. So copy that, go back to your PowerShell and paste it in here. Now press enter. Okay, so the registration is done successfully. So this completes task number 1. Okay, let's begin task number 2. So for task number 2, we're going to deploy an Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. To begin, let's search for the Kubernetes service. Select the Kubernetes service, click on create, and then create a Kubernetes cluster. Once the create Kubernetes cluster blade open, select your subscription followed by your resource group. So for this, I'm going to create a new resource group. So click on create new and then define your resource group. I'll name this one as AZ104-009C and then -RG1. For the cluster name, I'll name this one as AZ104-09C-AKS1. And then I'll put this one into East US. Okay, so for the region, I'll leave it as it is. For the node count, I'll set the node count to 1. Then I'll proceed to node pools. In a node pool, I'll leave it as it is. So make sure the default is set to enable the machine skill set. Leave it as it is, and enable the virtual node. I'll leave it disabled as it is here. Then I'll proceed to the authentication. Authentication method, leave it as system assign manage identity, and for the rollback I will enable that. and then click on networking. And for the network configuration, I'll leave it at KubeNet, and then I'll click on next integration. For the integration, I'll set the container monitoring to disable. Normally for production environments, it's recommended to set it as enable, but for this instance, I'll leave it as disable, and then I'll click on review and create. Okay, validation passed successfully, so I'll click on create. This will take approximately 10 minutes to complete, so I'll fast forward the process. Okay, so here we have it. The deployment was done successfully, so this complete task number 2. So now let's proceed to task number 3. So in task number 3, we're going to deploy pods into the Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. So let's go to the resource we created. So back in the resource here, let's click on node pools under settings, just to verify that we have one pool here. So as you can see right there, we have agent pool running successfully. So now let's go to the Cloud Shell. So to do this, click on this icon here. Once the Cloud Shell open up, let's switch this to Bash and then confirm. Once in Bash, we're going to run a command to create or retrieve the credential to access our AKS. So to do this, to retrieve the credentials, let's go to the manual and then scroll down to task number 3 under step 6. So task 3 under step 6, copy these commands. So essentially what this command will do is, so it will create a variable for our resource group, and then another variable for the AKS cluster. Then we will get the credentials by running this command. So let's copy this. Go back to PowerShell. Go back to the portal, and then under the bash, let's paste the command here and then press enter. Okay, so we got an error message when we run the command. So let's see what the error is. So it looks like there is an issue finding the service here. You cannot find it, and right, so let's see why. It might be something to do with the name. So what we'll do is, right, let's go to the resource. So it's this one here, and let's see the name of the resource in here. All right, so this one is AZ104-09C-AKS1. Let's see what we got here. All right, so as you can clearly see from here, there's a difference in terms of the name scheme. It's 09 here, but this one is just 9C, so we can make that adjustment. Okay, so I'll copy the command again and I'll make that necessary adjustment. So I'll go back to the manual here, copy the command, go back here, paste the command in there, and then I'll make the slight changes. Okay, I can't make it when I paste it in here. So what I'll do is, right, I'll use Notepad to make the changes. So I'm just going to go to Notepad, paste the command in there, and then I will add 0 to it. Then recopy the command and then repaste it in here. There you go. There you have it. It went through successfully. So once you run a command, we need to verify that the pool we created is in here, the node. So to do this, let's run kubectl space get nodes. And there you have it. We have our agent pool running. The next thing we're going to do is to install Nginx image from Docker into this deployment. So to do this, let's type in kubectl space create space deployment, then nginx deployment, then hyphen image, which will be equal to nginx, then press enter. Okay, that was created successfully. So let's run kubectl get port, and then we can see our port running successfully. Right, so now let's run the kubectl get deployment. And we got our deployment also running. So the next thing is that we want to make this port available to the internet. So we have to expose our deployment to the internet. So to do this, let's run the kubectl expose deployment nginx deployment, and then the port will be HTTP, so that'll be port 80. And for the type, it will be load balancer. Then press enter. Okay, that was exposed successfully. So now let's get a service to see whether we have a public facing IP address. So to do this, let's just type in kubectl again, and then this time let's get the service. And there you have it. We got a public IP address there for our nginx, as you can see right there. So to check to see whether this is working fine, let's copy the public IP address, open up a new tab, and then paste that in there. And there you have it. Welcome to nginx. So this complete task number 3. Okay, so now for task number 4. So for this task, we're going to scale the containerized workload in Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. So in this task, we will scale horizontally the number of ports and then the number of cluster nodes. So to do this, let's go back to the lab manual again and scroll down to task number 4. We're going to copy this code here. So essentially what this one is going to do is to create additional replica for our instance. So to do this, let's copy this, and then let's make the adjustment in Notepad. So the name of my AKS cluster is different, so I'm just going to adjust it. So add 0 here, and then recopy this, and then go to the bash and then paste this one in here and then run. Okay, deployment scaled successfully. So on scale, let's run the kubectl. Let's verify this by running the kubectl get ports. So hopefully we should see 2 running at the moment. So that is successful. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to increase the number of nodes to 2 as well. So to do this, let's do AKS scale resource group, and then the variable we created. So this will be here you go, your resource group. This will be name and then now let's complete it by AKS. Should complete now. Cluster, and then we increase this one to 2, so the count will be, the node count will be 2. Okay, there's a mistake somewhere. Let's look through the code, the command we run. So AZ AKS scale the resource group, then the resource group name, then the name of the cluster AKS, and so cluster node count. So we made a mistake with the count, so it's supposed to be n here. Now let's run it again. Okay, so it's now successful. So let's check by running kubectl get nodes. You should see 2 of them. There you have it. We got 2 of the nodes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scale the deployment. So to do this, let's run kubectl scale and then replica. So make the replica 10, so 10 replicas, then deployment nginx deployment. That's it. So enter. Okay, that was done successfully. So let's check this one with kubectl get ports. There you go. We got 10 of them running. Okay. All right. Okay, now to review the port distribution to see whether it was distributed between the 2 nodes, let's go back to the manual and copy this command here. So once you go to manual, scroll down to task 4. So in task 4, copy this command here. So command under step 7. So copy this one and let's run that command. Paste. Let's make sure there's no spacing at the beginning or at the end and press enter. There you go. So let's see. So we got it on 0 and also 1, so it should be distributed. That's fine. So essentially this is the end of this task. All we need to do now is just to delete our deployment. So to delete this, you just have to run kubectl delete deployment nginx deployment, and that's about it. So this complete task number 4. So I hope this video helped you out in terms of completing the lab. If you did and you appreciate this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.